welcome to the Secure Dynamics TechCast. With me, I have a new friend, but looks like I've known Kevin Powers forever. Kevin is let me make sure I get the entire title right, founder, director, and professor of cyber and national security programs at Boston College.
That
One
is
of many
correct.
things that you do, right?
Yeah, it always sounds good on paper.
Hey, I know this is going to be fun. So let's talk about something. Being part of both the education sector but also part of the industry, right? How have you seen the culture of cyber hygiene as it relates to kids and youth of today, right? And you've had a ringside view for a long time. So how has that shifted? Has there been improvement? Is there a difference between like a Gen Z and I don't know what comes after Gen Z?
Um, I would say we have not been training children in cybersecurity the way we need to.
Okay.
But hey, we're not doing that in business, and we're not doing that in academia either. When we're talking about people who work at colleges or any industry, I don't think the training's where it needs to be. But answering your question, when you get down to the high schoolers or you get down to pre-K up to eighth grade, I don't think we're really doing any training on that whatsoever. And when you look where we are now, you go from beginning of COVID-19 to its, education's remote. Most public schools are all online. They're working from home, the students, and I don't believe, I haven't done data research on this, but what I've read and what I've seen is the students are probably using the family
Yep.
laptops. They're sharing it. The Wi-Fi is not secure. They're probably not on a VPN. So, and do they know? No, they're focused on just trying to get through the day, get their homework done, and things along those lines, and get their schooling. But they're not focused on cyber at all.
So that leads into who ultimately has the accountability, right? And again, I hate to use the word ransomware, but that seems like the low-hanging ball. Ransomware is
Mhm.
a service you can actually go sign. I mean, there is something called RAS. I didn't even know that, right? So average person, you can go, you can hit people up, and so is it the school board? Is it the head of IT? If they do have a head of security, is the head of security? But then, how does that like evolve?
I actually, I'm not going to put it on anyone. I'm going to say we're all accountable for this. Everyone reads in the paper. We just saw SolarWinds. Every day there's something out there.
Yeah.
There's a new headline. There's a ransomware attack. School systems are being held. There's a massive DDoS, whatever. I think what it really comes down to is, government all the way down. It has to be a real, a joint venture between not only academia and private industry, but the government working together. The Secretary of Education coming in and say, what, cybersecurity is a priority because it really comes down to our children's safety and to the safety of the community, the families as well, especially with this whole remote, in coming up with processes, protocols in place. And it's really not to punish the kids, not to punish the families, to punish the teachers, but get things in place, make it real, and have them reducing the risk. Because right now, I mean, there's a lot going on. I mean, it's COVID-19, we're a pandemic. Teachers unions are going on strike because they're fearful for their own safety, the children's safety. So cybersecurity, which is all part of that, is getting pushed to the side. I think we need to pull it in and make it part of everyday. Hey, here's some training. You're going to be home. You're going to be on the computer. This is what we want you to do. This is what a VPN is, and really get everyone bought into it. So as far as the accountability, yeah, I mean, you get real in the regulators. You're talking about a regulator side of the house. Yeah, the accountability is going to come back to the school individually, and if it's a public school, it's going to come back to the school district, the city where it sits, and then that ultimately comes back to the school board and other administrators. It's my long answer to get to that.
No, it's interesting because as you were just before we hit record, I was telling you I just got off a recording with George Finney at Southern Methodist, and he was talking about something that he's actually written a book about. But in the six pager that he made available to the public, he was talking about how when you open your inbox, you frown. And he says, just like 30 seconds of smiling gets your endorphins going, 30 seconds of frowning actually makes you more vigilant. And they actually did this survey. They saw 43% increase in groups that were actually frowning when they, and it becomes part of, you don't have to frown per se once you get into the habit, but really it's like, hey, I'm going to be on guard when I look at my inbox.
Mhm.
Right. So talk a little bit about, and you're a big believer in kind of making this also part of every day. So what kind of successes have you seen with institutions that we work with when you make this security not this, oh, I need to go through this training versus, hey, I need to be vigilant. I need to be secure.
It's the buy-in. There's no interest like self-interest,
Yeah.
right? So what you want to do, and it's not the selfish part of it, but if I was talking to you, I would want to make it, this is why it's important to you.
Yeah.
I'm not making you take these steps because I want you to frown at the beginning of your day. I don't want you to spend your first 10 minutes of being miserable because, boy, I have to do all these administrative procedures. And why do I have to do this? It's so easy. Why can't I just click on?
Yeah.
Instead, it's, hey, we're doing this because we're protecting not only you, but the students. We're protecting our school. If you don't do these things, you're raising the risk up. So let's work together. And when I say work together, there might be some protocols in place on the security side you put in, and you talk to the teacher or you talk, to the families, and they say like, you know what, this is too cumbersome. We're just finding workarounds. So what you want to do is work with them to find a way that you can still be secure and it's not, such a work. And I get the frowning, and yeah, there's days when anytime I open my inbox in the morning, I have a frown on because there's about 100 emails there. But that's besides the point. It's really, okay, I have to click, I have to do this extra click to get my VP on. I have to check, my password, things along those lines. Well, that's just it becomes part of your day. And when you know that, hey, I'm protecting everyone, not just me, you'll buy into it. I believe you will anyways.
So one last question, Kevin, which is, if somebody is quote unquote new, right? New as in they've become aware they need to do something, but then they have to go from 0 to 60. And it starts off with the assessment phase, right? So what have you seen in terms of getting to even baseline? And do you need external help? Do you recruit students to do that? I mean, what's your experience been?
The baseline is getting good training and getting buy-in. So like, if you're going to work with whether it's an educational institution or, a big financial institution, or the government, first thing you want to do is sit down with the key players, right? It always comes from the top, and it doesn't necessarily mean like, hey, we just need buy-in from the board, because you hear that all the time, which is true, but you need the business unit bought in, okay? So if you're at a school, you would want the chair of a certain department to be bought into it. And then what you would do is sit down with them and you would come up with frequently asked questions, really basic things on, hey, how do I set up my Wi-Fi at home? How do I change my passwords or my credentialing? What is a VPN? How do I hook onto that? All these basic things. Why do I need multi-factor authentication? Why does that work? Why should I be using my work computer, right, all the time for work only, and not my personal laptop that I share with my children or I share with my wife or others, right? So you want to get those frequently asked questions. Then you want to have targeted training. Really, it just can't, I'm not one of those like off the shelf, you buy it and then like, oh, okay, now I'm cyber secure. I think it has to be targeted to the individual staff. So what a receptionist is being trained should be different than what's taught to a professor or a financial advisor. It has to be different, targeted and interactive, give and take. So people get 3 to 5 bullet points, and then the next time they have the training, they're building upon it. So that's my thoughts out of the gate.
Wow, no, I think that's so true, right? Sometimes you have this generic training that you apply to everybody, but it's not true. Mm-hmm. I mean, receptionist is, in the quote unquote days where you physically had work, he or she is getting distracted, people coming in, and then you have this email coming from your boss, and then you click that. That's her life or his life, right? It's
right, and it's the Wi-Fi, like, you've had these conversations. Okay, we're in the bubble. You got to remember, all of us who are in cybersecurity were like, what do you mean? Of course you would never use Wi-Fi at a Starbucks or any other place. Well, I hate to tell you, most people do.
Yeah.
And that's why you have to like educate them on why they shouldn't be doing that. And once they understand that, they won't, because there's other ways to use it. You have your cellular data you can use. You don't need to use Wi-Fi on your iPhone when you're at Dunkin' Donuts or wherever. I didn't want to just like attack Starbucks on that.
Yeah, no. Equal opportunity for all.
Yes, all good places.
All right, so great chatting with you, Kevin, and good luck, and looking forward to watching you in future panels.
No, my pleasure, and I'll see you virtually around town for sure.
All right,
thanks so much. Go Eagles.
Thank you. Bye-bye.